Okay, so now we get into the segment of the broadcast that is all about you. This is the part of the show where we read and respond to the miscellaneous topics that are sent our way. So here's how it works for those of you listening in or watching for the first time. If you have a question, you have a comment, you have something you want to hear my take on, my thoughts on, my viewpoint, it could be anything under the sun. It could be in regards to current events, doesn't have to be. Could be in regards to food, could be about this shirt that I'm wearing, if you want. Could be about the tie, um, the sun. Could be about shortwave radio. I could go on all day about that. Or anything at all. Standard disclaimer, I can't always be able to get to all of them, but if you have a question or something you want to hear me talk about, any topics for discussion, anything, could be about food or conspiracy theories or flowers or anything out there, way to do it, send me an email, vorwinfo@gmail.com. And also, standard disclaimer, second standard disclaimer, I guess, invest in shortwave. Get one, get a radio, find it, check it out, amazon.com/shop/the report of the week. All right, now you know how to submit a question and topic suggestion. Let's get to a bunch of them. First one is from Nathan in Essex, England. I found myself watching a lot of Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen of late. Now, Chef Ramsay is quite famous for his swearing and use of strong language. I was wondering what your thoughts were on the use of swear words and strong language. Do you find it vile or part of everyday conversation? You know, this might come off as a little bit of a surprise to some, but swearing in general does not bother me. I think that there are times, of course, where swearing is perfectly acceptable, and there are some certain circumstances where those choice words really may very well be the best things to explain certain situations, and just sometimes it's literally the best thing that sums it up. But when I do these programs and videos, I always wish to remain professional on air, on video, and for the sake of dignity, I don't swear. I don't let out any of the f bombs or any of that stuff. But granted, if the situation demands it, and like let's say I stub my toe real bad or something, yeah, you're probably gonna hear something from me. But the one thing, I try not to use it excessively. We're like, you hear some people that in everyday conversation, oh, F this, F that, this effing thing, and so on and so forth. I think that it can be limited. I think eventually it gets to a certain point where it really does degrade from the quality of whatever it is trying to be discussed. But I don't think that if you let out a swear here and there, it's the end of the world and you're the worst possible person to ever exist. I don't think that's true. So I think it needs to come down to a balance. But Gordon Ramsay though, he goes off on people. I have to tell you that. The other day I was watching some of the episodes of Kitchen Nightmares, and it amazes me that show has been off the air for 5 years. It actually stopped in 2014, but it's still an insanely popular show. You see all the clips of it online and everything, where Gordon Ramsay goes to all these failing restaurants and tries to fix them up, and I emphasize the word tries. Sometimes he does, sometimes the place is just a complete failure in every way you can imagine. But you hear lots of interesting words used about in that show. But it is interesting. I mean, I'm a fan of Kitchen Nightmares. I watch it. Sometimes it's one of those things where I just shake my head. I can't believe the situation, but that's where it stands. Thank you, Nathan, for your topic suggestion. Going over to Grand Forks, North Dakota, we hear from Allie. She says, my question is, how do you feel about vegan diets, and do you plan on doing vegan food reviews on your YouTube channel? So thank you for your question and topic suggestion. Just because I review fast food does not mean that I have something against being vegan. Like sometimes, and I think it's totally irrational, where you have people that say, oh, I eat burgers and steaks, and anyone who does this vegan stuff, F them. They're weak, they're this and that and the other thing. I don't believe that for one second. Oh, that's a real low-flying plane right there. Very interesting. Oh, anyway, you'll get these people that go on this whole tirade, and they're saying, this, that, and the other thing. I hate people that do this. No, you can eat what you want to eat. And if you want to do the vegan diet, and that's, if you want to completely forget about meat or any animal based products, that's fine by me. There's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, if I weren't too tied down to fast food reviews, because that's the reality of it, look, we'll just admit it. People really watch the channel because of fast food reviews. If I started only reviewing vegan stuff, no one would care. That's the sad thing about it. So if the channel wasn't so tied down to fast food, then I would definitely be much more active in reviewing that stuff. But nonetheless, you better believe when, like Burger King, for instance, and there's other places that are all doing the same thing, releases, the Impossible Whopper, and other places are doing this too, thank goodness. You better believe that I'm going to try this stuff out, and if it's good, I'm going to strongly advocate it. Because I think the abysmal conditions that so many animals are sadly raised up in, and the miserable lives that they live, it's sad to think about. It's truly sad to think about. So, what I am glad to see is a lot of these major chains to start putting an emphasis on these vegan alternatives. So it's going to be fun, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. What else do we have? We have Niels in Michigan, usually a shortwave listener, but he's tuned in online this week. Do you think that people change when given more or less power? Whether it's a promotion or demotion, do you think the individuals truly change because of a power shift? Oh, without a doubt. Absolutely. 100%. The best thing I want you to look up if you get the chance, research the Stanford prison experiment. Now, that was a psychological experiment that was done, I think, in the 1970s, and I'm just going off of memory here. I think there might have even been a movie, or maybe a short film or something based on it. I really don't know. But read about it. It's fascinating and it's scary at the same time, where this psychologist set up this mock prison, with a bunch of students, so it wasn't like real prisoners or any of that. And he got a certain number of them to be assigned the prisoners, and a certain number assigned the guards. So a certain number was given a type of power and control over another part. And those that were given the power took it to irrational, scary levels. People get a power trip. They do. That is a real thing. And, if you read about it, you will find it expressed more informatively and eloquently than I can state right now. But if some people, and this does not go for everyone, but if some people are given power, be that something completely irrelevant, like in that experiment, or if they're given a promotion, or even if they're given responsibility, some people will be fair, they will be kind, they will be just, and they will handle that power with dignity and responsibility. And you will have other people that will take that power and they will run with it, and they will be, it'll be insane. So it depends on the person, but there absolutely is, I believe anyway, a percentage of the population that will take power, run with it, and just irrationally take that control over it and use it against other people. Even if it is just in a fast food restaurant and someone becomes a manager, they may very well be like an authoritarian tyrant at McDonald's. And it's such an irrelevant thing, but some people, that's what they can get their hands on. That's what they're going to do with it. Alright, we're just readjusting the camera angle right here. And on to the next topic we go to. Let's do a time check real quick. Okay. Jenna is checking in. She says, "Are we living in a simulation?" Now, I don't think that's a topic that we'll ever be able to prove or disprove, perhaps. Of course, it depends on what your standpoint is, your belief, and so on. But I'll admit, one time I was really questioning, I mean, sincerely, if we were living in a simulation or not, was when I was having a particularly bad bout of depersonalization. And it felt like I wasn't in my body anymore. I was not here. I was not grounded. And as a result, that feeling was making me wonder, what if we don't even exist? What if none of this is real? What if this is all just a simulation and somehow maybe there's just a little bit of a glitch or error and I'm able to perceive that in a sense? Because for 2 or 3 weeks, there was a time when I felt like I was watching my life on a screen and I was not really there, even though I was, obviously. And during that time, I was really legitimately pondering whether I even existed. Now, that's one of those things that we cannot prove, and we may never be able to. So it all depends on your philosophy, how you feel about the universe, creation, our existence, and so on. But, I mean, what can you say? Can you prove that we are in a simulation? No. Can you prove that we aren't in a simulation? I don't think so either. So it comes down to personal philosophy, and either way, look, in the end, if we are in a simulation or if we aren't, just don't do anything stupid either way. It's not worth it. It just isn't worth it. All right, we have 2 more topic suggestions. Wade is checking in. On to my question. I am a student at a fairly academically challenging school, and I sometimes have extreme anxiety about tests, projects, assignments, etc., and don't usually have a lot of free time because of homework. My family and friends say that I need to not try so hard and not to stress about school too much, but I disagree. My question is, do you think putting in lots of effort into schoolwork to the point where you don't get to enjoy the various things that school has to offer is justified by a well-paying job or a job that you enjoy in the end? I'd like to know your answer. Thank you, Wade. So I think what you're essentially asking is, you might feel, or at least some people around you perhaps feel, that you are wasting the prime of your life by focusing too much on your schoolwork. And that you don't necessarily have that option, that ability to be able to, whatever it is that you like doing in your free time, be that listening to shortwave, or going to the club, or playing video games, or reading, or anything else. And you're wondering, well, what if I get a good job? What if all of this studying and hard work and time that I am putting in right now into education, I think it'll pay off going forward? What do you think? I mean, here's what you need to consider. There are lots of times in life where hard work will pay off. Where all these hours, now I don't know if you're in primary school right now, secondary school, or what education you're in. But either way, there are lots of times, I think, where putting all that time, that effort, will get those good grades, will get you to those places you want to be in life. But you need to be ready for anything. And I hate to break it to you this way, because it sounds like, why are you telling me this? There will be times where you're putting in countless hours of work, of time, of effort, even money in some situations, into this pursuit, and it doesn't work out. You study, and you study some more, and you get the degree you wanted, and you apply for the job, and you don't get hired. Or you're perfectly qualified, but there's no openings. I remember there was a time in New Jersey where lots of people who studied to be lawyers passed the bar exam, you name it. There were no law firms out there that were willing to take them in, and as a result, there were some that were even bussing tables just to make money, and they had a law degree and everything. Was all that time that they invested into being a lawyer worth it? Not at that moment, but of course, going forward, maybe there will be those openings and they would be able to finally get the job at the law firm they wanted. I think it's up to you. You have to look at your situation and you have to ask yourself, how do I feel right now? Because everyone is just looking at it from an outside perspective. They're not you, they don't know how you feel. They don't know what your mindset is, how you're doing. So you look at it internally. Are you okay with how you're living right now? Are you okay with, all right, I might not have the most time, I'm spending most of it on education, but am I satisfied? Am I happy? If so, look, it's your life. There's nothing wrong with that then. And if you want to spend most of your time pursuing education, that's perfectly fine. But if you're sitting there and you're miserable, I wish I didn't have to waste so much time with this, I hate it, then try to find a balance. Again, one thing you didn't mention is how well you're doing in your studies. If you're doing good, you can afford to take a little break here and there, and it's important to have a little bit of fun in life, again, whatever you perceive as fun. So you have to look at it. How are you doing? If you're absolutely miserable and you're hating every single day, try to incorporate a little bit more time into taking breaks, because that's the most healthy, in my opinion, thing to do. But otherwise, you just need to analyze it, you need to look at the situation, and from there, make that decision. But in the end, if you're happy with where you are still, taking a little break here and there will not hurt in the end. But just bear that in mind, and no matter what, I wish you the best with your education and career pursuits. And finally, Cesar in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. Small suggestion for a topic, he says. Is there any food you previously found yourself disliking and as time passed by ended up enjoying, or vice versa? And thankfully this has gotten a bit better, and I won't be too graphic with this one, I promise. And there was a time, I think this is going back to, I think it was 2014. I'm pretty sure that it was early 2014, where I was a big fan of hot dogs. I still like hot dogs, don't get me wrong. There was this one local place. It was in New Jersey, but it was good. They fried the hot dogs, of course. Good for the mind, bad for the body, but it tasted good, and I still like those. But there was a time, anyway, in 2014, I was not a hot dog connoisseur, but I liked them. I thought they tasted good. I was a fan, needless to say. And I would eat them all the time. So one night I was eating some grilled hot dogs, and I got a stomach virus. And that night I woke up nauseous, and what do you think I threw up, right? My dinner, that being the hot dogs. So for a long time afterward, even if it wasn't the hot dogs that made me sick, because that's what I was throwing up, I was not feeling hot dogs anymore, and I ended up disliking them to a point where the next time it came to possibly getting these grilled hot dogs, I was just too grossed out, and for probably a couple years, I stopped eating them entirely. Now, time kind of healed that wound, but in the end, that was definitely one food that it started out, I really started liking it, I was a big fan of it, then I got sick, opinions started changing real fast, and then over time, over the next couple years, I started warming up to it again.